Hello YouTube! Today on the Naughty Librarian, I'm doing my mid-February wrap-up. So far February has been a pretty good reading month. I've read 5 books, however, they're pretty long books. Not all of them, but one of them's exceptionally long. So that's a good amount of books, I think. And so far, nothing's been really terrible. I've read all different types of genres, so like I've been interested in reading continuously. Like I didn't need as many breaks, so I feel like I'm out of my slump, and which is definitely a good thing. So yeah, 5 books. Let's get into it. Let's go. There's a lot of different categories here. First category is romance, and I read 2 of them. First things first, I have How to Catch a Queen by Alyssa Cole. This was really anticipated for me. I have been loving this world and this series that Alyssa Cole's been writing. It's been really fun. And this one, like, I liked it. In the end, the writing is still good, and I enjoyed the main character, Shanti. Chef's kiss of a character, love her. The problem was Sanyu, because he's just such a shitty character. And he's the male romantic lead and the king of a country, and is just so ineffectual with everything that it was just like, Shanti, you deserve better, frankly. You do. So I think that was my biggest complaint with the book, was that I was just like, oh my gosh, Shanti, move on. Like, he sucks. Like, why are you investing this much time in this guy? Like him? That one? You can get better dudes! The basic gist of the plot here. Sanyu becomes king of a small nation, and he needs a queen, and in comes Shanti. It was kind of an arranged marriage through like a royal dating app. I know it's ridiculous, just go with it. And so he needs a queen, he gets Shanti, she comes into this nation, and it's just like raging misogyny and just horrible treatment of their people. It's just a bad all-around government system. And we're supposed to be rooting for Sanyu, and he's doing so little to change things for most of the book. And it's just like, bruh, you suck. But, like I was saying, Shanti is freaking magnificent, frankly. That's the only word to describe her as a character, is magnificent. Like, she is one of the coolest heroines I've read in a romance novel. Like, I'm obsessed with her. She speaks a bunch of languages. She's well educated in politics and running a country. And also, she's like super sexy. And she can also like beat you up because she's also an expert in martial arts. Basically, whatever she does, she's an expert. So she's magnificent. She can get you a girl who does both. Like, she'll do all of them. So I totally have a lady crush on Shanti. She's amazing. And then Sanyu is just like a weakling. Well, not like a physical weakling. He's just very weak-willed and lots of raging misogyny and just all kinds of stuff. And it's a bit of a product of his environment, but at a certain point, it's just like, why are we wasting time with this? Like, Shanti's magnificent. She could do better. So that was my main complaint with the book. Did I enjoy it overall? Yeah, like I said, the writing isn't bad. It's just the character of Sanyu is just weak and ineffectual. So it's not really a good male romantic lead, and frankly I wanted better for Shanti for most of the book, so it's just like, 3.5 stars. It's above average, definitely, because the writing is still quite good, but like, this wasn't the best showing of this world or series. I also read The Heiress Gets a Duke by Harper St. George. Now, this book is kind of the definition of mediocre. I gave it 3 stars on the nose. It is just average. And I know that seems harsh, but like, the main reason I'm using the term mediocre is that this book had so much potential to do really cool things. Like, whoever the editor was in this book just didn't care, frankly. Like, it doesn't work for a lot of reasons. So the basic idea here is that there's these 2 American sisters, August and whatever her sister's name is, I don't care. And then you have this Duke, Evan, and he is poor as shit, so he needs to marry an heiress. You know, get a duchess, marry an heiress, get some money, that's what he needs to do. And in comes these American sisters. August is kind of a firecracker, and they meet, and they like each other, but like, you know, complications. And so she's very willful and doesn't want to get married, but her parents are trying to force her to get married to this guy. And she's like, I don't know about you, Evan. And then Evan's like, okay, and then they get together in the end. Like, that's not really a surprise. That seems like a really threadbare synopsis because it's not really about a lot more than that. I mean, does it go into social issues of the Victorian era? Yeah, it does go into, you know, the misogyny of that era and how women had so little autonomy over their lives or bodies. So it does touch on those subjects. It doesn't do enough with them to really drive home the point, though. It's just like, you touched on them, great, I'm glad you did. It's an important part of the conversation, but they weren't main aspects of the story in certain regards. The biggest issue here is that this is a classic example of telling, not showing. So many times we get told, ooh, August is opinionated and strong-willed, and no one likes her, and all this stuff, but like, we spend all of the book with August being perfectly polite and not sassy. She has perfect manners. And she is like opinionated in the fact that she doesn't want to marry someone for like in this situation. She doesn't want to just marry someone because her parents tell her to. She wanted to be able to choose a spouse. So that's her big thing. And like, she's smart and she helps run the business, the family business and stuff. But that's not one of the things we keep getting told about. We keep told she's sassy and opinionated and strong-willed and all those things that men didn't like in the Victorian era. And she spends none of the book actually doing those things. So it's like, why do you keep telling me she's like this when none of her behavior suggests that? And I think the biggest one is Evan, because we keep getting told that, like, he's a rogue and a rascal and a scoundrel and, you know, a rape character. And, like, he spends this entire book being nothing but, like, kind and honest to her. Like, where is the rogue behavior? I'm not even joking or being facetious here. He literally spends this entire book being kind and honest to people. How is he a rogue? Like, even the scheme of, like, getting an heiress to marry him because he's cash poor, he tells them up front. Like, he's so honest all the time. And he's not, like, broke because he, like, squandered the family fortune. He's trying to rebuild the family fortune because it was already squandered. He just spends the whole book being kind, truthful, and reliable for everything. Like, why do you keep telling me he's a rogue or a rake or a scoundrel type of duke character when he has none of those characteristics? I keep getting told that over and over, but I'm like, no, he's not. Like, what are you doing? So it was just really frustrating because it was very punching me in the face with how much I'm telling you how these characters are, but not showing me that at all. And it was just, ugh. But I did finish the book. And it was fine. You know what I mean? It just really needed to pick a direction and lean into it. Like, what genre is this book? Historical romance. Okay, that's great. Is it a comedy or drama? Like, what is it? From the tone of the book, I'm assuming this is supposed to be a comedy, but it's not funny. I don't think she even attempts to make it funny. And it's not a drama. It's not anywhere near dramatic enough to be a drama. So it's just like this weird middle ground where no clear direction was really picked. And there's so much fertile ground here. You have like this oddball situation where he's a cash poor duke trying to marry an heiress for money. And the whole blurb of the book is she's like, oh, well, I'm going to make him regret wanting to marry me. And you expect war and pranks and those type of things, none of which happen. They have these two American sisters who are super close to each other. I would expect schemes. Zero scheming. Zero. So I'm just really disappointed in it. I think the best way to describe it is that you have all of the ingredients you need to make your favorite meal, but somehow you still cooked it wrong. Like, that's the book. Like, has all the ingredients, but it's just cooked wrong. So it's average, 3 stars. Next category is murder mystery, and I read one of them. I read The Broken Girls by Simone St. James, and oh my word, I loved it. 5 stars. It's so good. I went into this book expecting to enjoy it because I've read a different book by Simone St. James and enjoyed it, and this book seems to have a similar premise idea behind it. Although this book did come out before the other book I read, so I was like, well, I'll probably like it. And then I was like, oh man, this book is way better than the other one. Like, the other one is good, but this one's great. This is a really twisty-turny kind of mystery book, and it's being told in 2 different time periods. So you have the 1950s and then you have 2014. So it's a large gap in between the 2 times. The 1950s characters, from the very beginning of the book, you know something terrible happens. And then you kind of go throughout the book and you figure out what's going to happen. And, you know, there's a murder. And we're following these girls who, they're at this, like, boarding school kind of for, you know, the unwanted girls of the family. Like, maybe the father wasn't not married to the mother, so they sent this kid away, or what have you, problem child, I don't know. Just any kids that the parents just want to get rid of, they send them to this boarding school. So you have this group of 4 girls and their roommates, and they all kind of have this really deep bond with each other. And I love the friendship in between them. It's really complex, as all these characters are very different people, and we switch perspectives, so we get perspectives from all 4 of those girls. And it's just interesting how they intertwine with each other and their backstories, and it was just really subtle nuances here and there that were just chef's kiss. I loved. And we're just following along this group of girls and living their lives because we know from the beginning of the book something terrible is about to happen. So it's kind of the lead up to that terrible thing and what happens after the terrible thing. So it's interesting kind of seeing these girls work together and just be really close friends, and I loved it. And then you have your parallel story in 2014. You have this woman, she's a reporter. Her sister was murdered at the school. The school was already closed, and since the 90s, but they found her body there. So she has like this really strong connection to this like all-girls boarding school that's been closed for a long time. More murder mystery things start coming out of that. Like, there's all these like little pieces of her sister's murder that just really never made sense. So she's also trying to like learn more about the school and the grounds and really find out what happened that night. She's still trying to investigate it like 20 years later. So you have the modern story and the 50s story, and they're both trying to solve like a crime. And they're connected in certain ways, and there's also ghosts. Like, I love Simone St. James. She puts ghosts in her books, and not metaphorical ghosts like Wuthering Heights. Like, no, there's actual ghosts, and they're scary, and I like it. And you guys, like, I am so uncannily good at picking killers, and I did not pick the killer in this one, so that already impresses me quite a bit if I can't peg the killer. And oh man, loved it. Loved it so hard. I definitely recommend. It has a lot of different layers to it. The characters are very complex and interesting. It's fantastic, honestly. 5 stars. I love it. Next category is sci-fi, and I read one of them. I read Architects of Memory by Karen Osborne. This was sent to me by the publisher, and I didn't read it early because I suck, but I read it eventually, and that counts for something. Essentially, it kind of has the base of my favorite sci-fi trope, which is a group of misfits on a spaceship. And it has that a bit. It has kind of a found family system on this spaceship, and they're like salvagers. There's a bigger world at play here where it's basically, ooh, capitalism is very bad, essentially. All of the like the superpowers of the world, because they're all like off-world now, are corporations. And they can judge whether or not you're a citizen based on like a lot of different factors. If you're not a citizen, you have no rights, no medical care, nothing. If you're a citizen, you get all of that for free because you're a citizen. So it's like this whole thing with like basic slavery, but without the name slavery. So it's like, it's a rough world that has been created here. And I mean, partially it's rough because this is post-war time. First contact happened, and it didn't go well. The aliens kind of kicked our butts. So that's why we're all in space now, and in multiple different planets. We've traveled and settled elsewhere. And in particular, we're following this woman, Ash. She is terminally ill, but trying her best to become a citizen. If she becomes a citizen, her terminal disease is actually treatable. So she's trying really hard and trying to keep the fact that she's dying secret. And one day they're out salvaging and they find a spaceship and they find a device in it. And it's an alien weapon device thing. And they're like, oh shit, will be a problem. They now are in possession of this like massive alien weapon. What are you gonna do with it? Because if one corporation gets it over another corporation, like that's all out war. They're just gonna like rule the universe essentially because they're gonna have like the mega weapon. So it's a lot of like trying to have an armistice happen and fighting those things off. And it's also a lot of weird sci-fi memory conditions, like architects of memory, like I've been saying. And so it's trippy and weird, and I liked it. And it has like cool characters. It's definitely LGBTQ+. Ash and the captain are lovers. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to get into everything, obviously, because that's telling you the whole plot. But I ended up giving it 4 stars, not 5 stars, because for most of the book, I was really fascinated with it. I love, like, the writing style. It's kind of pulpy, but, like, grounded in reality, even though I know it's sci-fi, but, like, it feels like they're real people. So I like that they were, like, caricatures of characters. They felt real. But the ending is just so fucked up that I was like, that's how you're ending this? For fuck's sake. So, yeah, it definitely elicited a strong reaction from me. I know there is another book of this series coming out, and I think I'm gonna read it just because I can't live with the ending of this. It's kind of, it ruined the book a bit. And I was like, really? That's just how you're gonna leave it? Like, it's not necessarily cliffhangery, it's just fucked up. And I was like, oh, no. So I do have the other book coming to me because I can't leave it as this. Like, I can't. What's happening? Last category is fantasy, and I read one of them. I read The Ruin of Kings by Jenn, Lyons. Oh boy, this is a chonker of a book. Like, it's real thick, and there's like an encyclopedia in the back for pronunciation and what things are, what houses go to where, family trees. There's an encyclopedia, guys, in the back of the book. It's a lot of book, but I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. Like, I don't know if it's like, wow, this is incredible 5 stars, or just like, I really fucking had a good time with this, 5 stars. I think it's more of the latter. We are following this young man named Kieran. He kind of grew up on the streets, and turns out, you're actually part of one of the royal houses. And he's like, well, shit. So he kind of gets pulled into the royal world, and there's also bigger games afoot here. There's lots of magic and gods and demons and necromancy and all kinds of crazy magical things happening here. I really love like the magic system and the world building. Everything feels like a real location, and they're all very distinct, and they have all these different gods, and how like their world works magic wise and in relation to deities is so cool. Like, I love the world building. I can see why there's an encyclopedia in the back because it's a lot, but like I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really thought out well, and like it was fun. I enjoyed like all the possibilities it gives you. But anyway, Kieran, he is like trying to save the day, save the kingdom, etc., doing stuff. And I won't get into really more of the plot because that's kind of the basis of it. You can fill in the blanks from there. The only thing about this book that's a bit difficult, I would say, is that the way the story is being told, because it's being told in 2 different directions at the same time, which is very confusing. I don't know why they chose to tell the story like that. I don't know if it helps or hinders the story, because that's just how it is. The book starts like at the end of the book, and then it goes back to the beginning of the book, and then it kind of alternates chapters. So it's like beginning, end, beginning, end, beginning, end. Kieran is telling the present part of the story, the ending, the part of the story, that era. And then there's this other character who's telling how the story started and where it went before he got to the point where he is in the beginning of the story talking to that other character. I know, that probably made 0 sense. But yeah, it's the same story being told in 2 different directions at the same time. So it's just odd. I don't know why that choice was made in the storytelling, and it is a bit confusing. Like, I was able to keep everything straight, honestly. And I think a big part of it was that I listened on audio. So I do recommend doing that because there's different voices, and that helps like keep things straight a bit more. So I do recommend the audiobook because I feel like this clarity of everything, it just helps it along. But overall, I thought the magic system was really cool. The world building was super cool. I really like Kieran. He's a character you root for. He's clever. He's like plucky. Like him a lot. Love it. So, you know what? I ordered book 2. I really enjoyed this enough that I ordered the next book of the series to continue on the story, because this book ends with just like a big thing happening. And I know there's like, I think there's 4 books in this series. The last book is, I think, coming out soon. So I could just marathon it, and I'm excited about that. But yeah, they're chunky books. They're big chonkers of a fantasy. So I think if you like a complex fantasy, you'd get into this. Likable characters. Like, I just wasn't in the mood for a grimdark. There's plenty of grimdark things that happen in this book, but I just couldn't, like, deal with morally inept characters anymore. I just wanted someone with some type of morals, like, for once. Like, is that too much to ask? So yeah, it's kind of a more heroic fantasy story, and I dug it a lot. I'm gonna read book 2. Okay, so those are all the books I have read so far this February. So far, so good. I mean, there were some ups and downs here. The romances haven't really been hitting hard for me, but the other books I read, I had 2 5-star books. So far, I'm counting it as a win. I've been having a good time. And honestly, reading 2 5-star books really helped get me out of my reading slump. Like, I was in a slump, and that helped so much. Let me know in the comments down below. Have you been reading a whole bunch of different genres lately, like me? Like, I've just been switching it up every other book, and I've been having a good time with it. It's helping keep things fresh. So, what's the last book you read? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I will see you guys soon.